Hello everyone. Okay, let's start this recording. Okay, hello everyone. I welcome you all in this essay session 8 for UPSC 2025 essay paper preparations. And I also welcome those who would be watching this video in its recorded format. Today, we're going to pick up a very important theme, a theme which repeats quite often in UPSC essay papers. And I want you all, with the help of these topics that I've given you in test series, prepare some content and some fodder material, some words, vocabularies, some examples, some statements which you can readily use when you have to write an essay on that particular theme. The theme which I see repeats quite often in UPSC essay exams is uh, uh, is a theme where it says that you are a person or an individual or a nation or a society, whatever you may call it. You are basically an entity which is surrounded by difficult circumstances or difficult circumstances, challenges, and you can't control the external environment. The best you can do is control your own actions. So, uh, before we actually jump on the essay topic, this was a topic that I had given you all in this essay test too. You cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. I repeat, you cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. This was the topic that I had given you all. Along with this topic, a man who does not lick his lips, can he blame the hot winds for drying them? These two topics I had given you in the test in this test, section B. You had to attempt any one of them. And apart from them, the other topics which you see here, uh, UPSC asked them in the previous years. Ships do not sink because of the water around them. Ships sink because of the water that gets into them. And time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining, and the cost of being wrong is less than the cost of doing nothing. Now, if you have not noted or observed this pattern, let me do that for you. That in all these essays, there is one thing which is common, that we have to give examples of such situations where uh, we are able to illustrate that our destiny, our destiny or our fate, whatever you may call it, our destiny or our fate or basically our future, all these things, they depend upon what we do now. This is the crux of most of these essay topics. So, difficult situations would be there in life, challenges would be there, but we have to look for that silver lining. We have to look for that bleak hope. And apart from them, whatever best we can do, whatever is in our hand, that we should focus upon. So stop cribbing about the external environment. Stop cribbing about the things that you cannot control. Stop cribbing about the past. जो हो गया सो हो गया, बीत गई सो बात गई. So stop being obsessed about the past. Stop being obsessed about the negative things that are there in the life, and don't be haunted by and don't get overwhelmed by the negative and by the negative circumstances, but rather focus on what best we can do. And if we are not able to put in our efforts, then there is nothing, no one else whom we can blame. I have simplified these things in simple words. This is what our philosophy, which we should be focusing on. Now, These ideas that I have told you just now, you can put these ideas in different philosophies, um, but most prominently among them is Stoic philosophy or Stoicism. What Stoicism says? Stoicism says several things. It says, for example, it says that how you need to uh, be disciplined, how you need to control yourself, and most importantly, it talks about acceptance. जो हो रहा है आपके आसपास, the acceptance of what? Acceptance of, I would say, external environment. जो बाहर की दुनिया है उसको आप एक्सेप्ट कर लो कि ये है, वी कैन नॉट चेंज द एक्सटर्नल एनवायरनमेंट. अब फॉर एग्जांपल इंडिया की ज्योग्राफी है, आवर ज्योग्राफी, we have to accept we can't change that. So we cannot change the fact that we are surrounded by hostile neighbors, China on the one side and Pakistan on the other side. We cannot change the fact that we don't have oil resources flowing in our geography, in our terrain. So whatever problems we have them. Let us accept them. Now look forward what best we can do. We have been colonized. We have a history of colonization. Wrong things occurred to us. Western countries came, they looted us, they devastated us, they ruined us, but that is past. Let us accept that. Now focus on what best we can do now. These are the ideas that can flow towards Stoicism. Stoicism also talks about duty. It also talks about duty, it talks about virtues, and a lot of other things. Where I want to draw your attention is this thing, acceptance of external environment, and focus more on your duty. हम क्या कर सकते हैं? ये बहुत सिंपल बातें हैं जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ, बट एसेज में ये आइडियाज एकदम से आपको आते नहीं है. एंड many of you who would have been writing this topic, you might have noted ki how you feel sometimes deprived of content. In today's session, we will build some examples which you can relate and use in a wide range of essay topics. Likewise, in our Gita also, you see that how Gita emphasizes on the role of duty. We all know that Karmanyevadikaraste, that famous shloka. That's the core idea of Gita. I'm not illustrating that further, but I just want to show that the ideas that we are talking, people can club or associate them with some particular philosophy. Buddhism, for example, it also talks about uh, controlling your desires, controlling your desires. Even Gita talks about that, control over desires. So controlling your desires, and desires are the root cause of miseries. And uh, so, but my friends, when you have to write essay, don't give the credit of your thoughts to a particular philosophy or a particular school of thought, but rather claim it as your own. And one thing that I see, that many of these ideas, especially stoicism and these stoic ideas, they are something which are quite prevalent today, and many of us have internalized them. We already believe in them, though there are exceptions also when we don't believe them, and we will come to that and come to those in a while. But these ideas, they are very prevalent, and the more you read about them, the more you will heal yourself. आपको वैसे भी लाइफ में बहुत हेल्प करेगा. These will help you in life also, these ideas, and especially in your preparations. This philosophy of being able to control your own self and accepting what is happening around you, and stop complaining about the external environment but rather look more inwards, is an idea, is a way of life which is very suitable, especially for people who belong to administrators, especially administrators, and especially professionals and army people. It's very useful for them, and these professions are quite often built around them. Okay, so let us take some examples here. This is the background, this is the context. Now, I again repeat, this might be repeated, this might sound repetition, but this is extremely important. That's why I am repeating it. That please remember that this idea of you being able to do and you being responsible for your life, whether the good things happen, whether the bad things happen, you being responsible for them, you taking up the ownership of your life, and you taking up the ownership of your life or your community or your nation, basically we taking ownership of our life, our community, our nation, this very philosophy, this very idea, we taking up the ownership and we will do what is required. This idea, it, remember, this idea will be useful for essays which may not be explicitly asking you to write on these topics, but even some other ideas, some other essay topics also. So थोड़ा ध्यान से ये बात सुनना, ठीक है? Keep your antennas open. I mean, your receivers and your transmitters and your processors, they should be running, they should be up and running. And remember how we have to implement these ideas in a wide, wide range of essay topics. Okay, this was the background so far. Now we will start discussing a few examples, a few illustrations of this idea. Okay, the idea here is uh, take up the ownership. Ownership of ourselves, our lives, community, nations, and so on. Now, what where can we start from? I would begin shortly, but before I do that, I invite you all before कि किसी और को points यहाँ पे ऐड करने हैं तो you are welcome. ठीक है? इसी तरीके से ये वाला टॉपिक भी जो है ऐसे टाइप टॉपिक 2 जो दिया है, man who does not lick his lips, can he blame the hot winds for drying them? This topic, this essay topic, what does it say? कि the hot winds will dry your lips. That is, they will cause some miseries. But if a man is not doing the bare minimum act of licking his lips, that is not putting up the bare minimum efforts, is it justified for him to blame the hot winds, that is the external environment? This statement that I had given to you all, it was basically said by Chinua Achebe. He had said it in a different context, and he is a very award-winning, very iconic writer. Just like we have Tagore in our country, think of him as a person of a similar stature in Africa and from Nigeria. He's a very renowned person, and in English literature, many of his novels are cardinal text. We read them a lot. So he's a very famous person, Chinua Achebe, an African writer, or to be precise, he's from Nigeria, and you can quote him, quote this statement in your essays, and remember these quotations. You can use them in a wide range of essay topics. At least from today's session, please try to remember this quotation. A man who does not lick his lips, can he blame the hot winds for drying them? In actual statement, he had used some other word for hot winds. I have slightly changed it because we don't, he had used some peculiar name for hot winds that is prevalent in Africa. Likewise, time to repair the roof is when the sun is shining. So if we do not, what this as a topic means, if we do not take actions when the situation is favorable to us, then we will be responsible for whatever devastating things happen to us when situations go unfavorable. So if situations are favorable to you, do the best that you can do. The topic could have been different also. Even if the situation is not so favorable to us, there may be storms, there may be COVID like pandemic or other difficult scenarios around us. Even then, we should not lose hope, do the best that we can do. Similarly, ships do not sink because the water around them, ships sink because the water that gets into them. This also means that ships here is a metaphor. It is a metaphor for an individual, for a community, for a nation, and all of these things, if they sink, that is, if they go down, that is, if they meet a dead end, or if they if they undergoes through some devastation, then it is not because of the water. Water here means negativity or difficult situations, which is around them. It is the water which gets into them. So if the negativity gets in ourselves, if we stop being active, if we become hopeless, that is the reason why we drown ourselves. It is not the environment, but rather how we react. So our perceptions, our outwards perception towards it, our attitude, this is what would matter. Okay? Our attitude, our approach towards life, this is what will make the most important impact. I have repeated quite a lot of times these ideas. Now we will begin with some examples over here. Okay, can we go ahead? Or anyone has to contribute something over here?
Sir, I have a doubt. Sir, in these kinds of essays, what should be the storyline of the essay? For example, in the starting, should we discuss about the challenges, then bring it to the responsibility aspect of the essay? So,
Any
how?
it will depend, see, what the topic is. The focus of the topic is on the challenges or what. If the topic is on challenges, it focuses on challenges, then we can talk about challenges straight away. If not, then maybe not. I mean, I cannot prescribe a one rule whether to bring the discussion around challenges first or do something else. But okay, Rahul, I think
Ye-
Rahul asked this question.
Yes, sir.
So Rahul, in case if मैं आपकी कॉपी देखूंगा, then I will be able to say. I think you messaged me your script, but मैं उसे देख नहीं पाया अभी तक. But I will answer this when I go through your script. Okay, but remember, one clear answer I cannot give. Topic क्या होगा, we don't know what the topic would be, how exactly the topic would be, where it would like us to focus and pinpoint our attention, we cannot say as of now. But a big chunk of the ideas or the bulk of the ideas or a significant portion of the ideas at least, they may be drawn from the discussion that we're going to take, we're going to hold now. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so let us begin with a set of our examples, straightforward at an individual level. This will be easier to remember also. Individual level. Say individual level, we are responsible for our own fate, and I'll be moving a little quickly. Health, for example, health is the most important point. We are responsible for our own health. No doubt there are genetic disorders. No doubt there are instances where people are born with some crippling situations, or but in spite of that, most of us still are insincere or negligent towards our lifestyle issues and our lifestyle habits, our food, all these things we ignore until we are surrounded by some threatening or some mild order disorders or some threatening situations. So whether it is diabetes, or it could be a mild issue, or it could be some very serious issue, life-threatening issue. But in all these situations, I think we should be held responsible for our own miseries. Okay. Secondly, we can talk about career also. Career also. So, career and education is one place where it is very important. Most of us may not be born in very rich families, or may not be having full access to resources. But still, whatever resources, whatever resources we have, are we able to utilize them today now? And in the digital age where access to education has become comparatively more democratized, uh, then are we making the best use of it? And especially, are we upscaling ourselves upscaling, or what we should say, what we are upscaling. It's not upscaling, it's upscaling. Uh, so whether you spend your time learning new skills, or whether you spend your time in scrolling, it's up to you. Whether you watch Instagram reels all the day, whether you watch even further negative things like pornography, or whether you utilize that time in learning new skills, it's up to you. Likewise, see, when AI has, it's the time of artificial intelligence, ChatGPT, and all these generative AI technologies, what for we're using them, it depends upon us. So we can't blame them. We can't blame anything. We shouldn't be blaming anything. We should be looking what best we could be doing for these things. Okay, so more examples can be added here, but we will quickly move to the next level from individual. We will move towards family level. In family, for example, we see there are conflicts quite often that take place in a family. No relationship is born in heaven. Relationships are not made in heaven, in the sense that no relationship is a perfect relationship. Every relationship is inherently full of some contradiction. I would repeat, every relationship is inherently full of some contradictions. Now, whether we resolve those contradictions, and in case if we can't resolve those contradictions, how much we are able to adapt, how much we are able to look towards the positive side, how much we are able to respect each other, irrespective of the disharmony and the dissonance, that depends upon us. So, the failure of our relationships, the failure of breakdown of families, the increase of divorce rates, the increase of adultery, um, for all these things, for all these negative vices in society, for divorce, or we shouldn't be using divorce, don't use divorce word here, but rather say breakdown of families, breakdown of marriages and families and relationships and families, for example, or adultery. These kind of things we cannot blame the external environment itself. ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने कुछ बाहर से देखा, but it is we, our own vices which should be held responsible for them. 2 3 days ago, I think, in Coldplay concert, there was some CEO and some other person of the company, HR head, or you might have seen that news. So that symbolized like how relation people are moving beyond the relationships, and adultery or some sort of those things are becoming getting so normalized and popular. And the point here is that we cannot blame anyone. We have to look that our greed, basically, it's our greed. Okay, it's our greed, it's our vices, it's our lust, it's our, or we could say it's our recklessness, it's our stubborn behavior, our resistance to change. It is our problems, our own problems, which provide a fertile ground for the fault lines to emerge, for these uh, relationships to become ridden with disease and sickness. Okay. Likewise, if parents don't spend time to their children, it's they themselves who would be should be blamed, not the external world. Just mobile देखकर बिगड़ गया बच्चा. Mobile दिया किसने? Who handed that little infant mobile? Infant खुद चल के तो मोबाइल के पास नहीं गया था. तो the parent, due to whatever reason, and if parents themselves are looking at mobiles, then why would the child want learn the same habit? So, are you getting these things? ये सारी चीजों के लिए हम एक चीज बार बार रिपीट कर रहे हैं. इट इज वी आवरसेल्व्स who should be held responsible. We cannot blame someone else. Likewise, we could be talking about communities also. In communities, for example, there is a rise of mistrust today. If religious community in India are fighting today, can we hold Britishers responsible for them? Historians say that Britishers came and they divided Hindus and Muslims in different communities. They sowed the seeds of communalism and so on. But how long would we keep uh, barking at or harping the same formula again and again that Britishers promoted divide and rule in India? Britishers have left our country. They have long left our country. It's been 70 years. There's no British person in India. And still today, if Hindus and Muslims are fighting amongst themselves, then it is we ourselves who are responsible for them. And this communalism, it could be about communalism, or it could be about the language divide today, which is becoming very serious these days. We have seen how countries have been splitting in neighborhood, but still, if we are not able to address that, then whom would we hold responsible tomorrow? So this topic, you cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. This linguistic chauvinism is threatening us today, and we are ignorant of it. We are sidelining all those instances where some people are holding at ransom the entire society. How long would we ignore those things? So it is for us to see. So on these lines, friends, you should interpret these ideas, and likewise, you could be talking about nation also. Okay, nation also. Now, a lot of people like you people must have read governance and economic issues and these related topics in GS. Henceforth, when you're reading those for your mains or maybe next year prelims, as the case may be, so try to look for those specific instances where you see that government governance should swing into action. What are those instances where you see that the governance should swing in action? Record them at one place, and then from there you can explorate them further. Can you tell any such examples? I'm leaving this space for you all people. Okay, you can add up here where the nation and the governance you see should swing into action. Likewise, the global world also. And one more issue is this climate crisis, where we need to swing into action. I'm not explaining these things, these points further, but these are turning more into a GS kind of things, and I think people would be able to substantiate it yourself. Is it fine? Wherever something unique is there, then I will add. And likewise, there is education, and in education, a related theme is that of decolonization. Why I'm picking up this idea decolonization? I wanted to pick up this idea of decolonization somewhere in some discussion. Let me pick up today. Decolonization, as we all know, is there's a movement for decolonization which is taking place. Mo and why it is there? What's the need for this? Most of our literature, most of our literature and our syllabus, our curriculum, what we learn in universities, all those things have been written by the colonial rulers. And it's 70 years, but still we have not been able to replace them. So, literature, university space, our narratives about ourselves, even our legal system, and so on, they have been influenced, they had been dictated by colonial rulers. So, colonial rulers have long left this country, they are no more there. And are we doing anything to address those things? So, for them, we cannot depend upon anything. Why I have picked up this idea of decolonization here? Because the other topic that I had given you all, and this topic was a man who does not lick his lips, can he blame the hot winds for drying them? This statement had been said in the context of decolonization. So what Chinua Achebe possibly meant that if narratives in Africa, if the discourses in Africa, if they are still influenced and they still seem to be shaped by colonial elements, then and the university people, the literary and the intelligentsia and the civil society, they are not even trying to remove those that influence, then they should not be blaming the colonizers, but their own selves. So Chinua Achebe had said that statement in that context. That is, so it becomes little important to bring it up here. Okay, let's slightly look at that statement also, of Chinua Achebe. Okay, Chinua Achebe, what he said basically. So, Chinua Achebe had given this statement: "A man who does not lick his lips, can he blame the hot winds for drying them?" And he had used this word harmattan. Okay, I've told you that he's an extremely important and famous person from Africa, and you should remember his name and his ideas. So, what it means is, hot winds are a metaphor for external challenges that are often beyond the control of a person. Licking the lips is a metaphor for those actions that are well within our control and for which we don't depend upon external factors. Okay, so here I have explained it here. You can refer to it. The Western hegemony in the field of social sciences often continues because, suffering from racial prejudices, we still look up to the West as a source of superior knowledge, ignoring the genius of our own scholars. This is very important content because in NPA and in this government, it promotes the idea of decolonization. I've seen a lot of conferences, and a major theme of those conferences in social sciences is related to decolonization. Decolonization is really a very strong movement under the present disposition, under the present government. So this government, it believes in decolonization, and this theme also may occur. So this paragraph would also help you understand what decolonization in academic discourse is. All these things with what I have written over here. Our artists and writers will suffer from retardation if the public continues to neglect them in the deserts of Western artists, riding our waves of capitalism and technology. Okay, so you can remember, you can use that. You can use these paragraphs to have some idea about decolonization also, and in your essays, try to give a reference to decolonization if possible. And UPSC would give you opportunity to talk about that. Especially if there is some topic related to education or research or discourse, then obviously you can talk about the idea of decolonization. And this also I had given you the same examples, okay, the similar example. Uh, Nation, defense, geopolitics. In geopolitics over here, this example is pretty good, that investing on diplomatic staff and ties to address our security threats, investing on indigenous defense weapon systems. Yes, very important. I was about to include that. Uh, and here, look towards it. This particular quote, very important, and remember it also. A man who has nowhere else to put his hand for support puts it on his own knee. जिसका कोई नहीं होता उसका वो खुद होता है तो we if no one else helps us, if no one else supports us, at least we should be supporting our own self. Okay, so when there is no source of external help available, you have to depend on your own self. So this kind of stoicism and this kind of stoic behavior is something which we should imbibe in ourselves. Okay, friends. So from here, I will jump back to the same discussion which we were having, we were running. Okay. So here I was adding, yes, I would add this point also, geopolitics and defense, what we call it, defense, where we say that we should not depend upon the foreign imports, self-reliance. And it's not just self-reliance also, but see, it's now it is your GK knowledge, GS knowledge, how you use your knowledge of GS and put them in sentences and articulate your thoughts in a beautiful way. So, for example, we could be saying that in current times, We see that how sixth generation fighter jets, at least their prototypes have been developed by our adversary in China. And this prototype is completely built on AI. And today we don't have anything beyond 4.5th generation fighter jet. So we cannot keep ignoring these stark reality forever. Even Pakistan, it has imported fifth, or it seems to be importing very quite soon, fifth generation airport fighter jets from China. So we cannot evade this responsibility. We cannot shy away from them. We cannot have that this ostrich-like attitude. It is up to us. Immediately, we should swing into actions. So this was, my friend, some of these examples. अब आप लोग अच्छा आशीष इसमें कुछ और पॉइंट्स ऐड कर सकते हैं. Ashish Gupta also has said this point. Ashish Gupta says this year's economic survey also emphasizes on turning to our own domestic growth drivers in the wake of global uncertainties. So, right, so he's talked about economy, and what he says is, as per the economic survey, he says that we should be relying on our own domestic growth drivers rather than uh, on any external factors, and especially because of global certain uncertainties are mounting up. So we should be looking inwards how we can have a robust growth. So yes, more examples you should be able to add. And see, you people have access to the latest developments. So people are going through them. Now scan and filter. अब आप जब भी जीएस पढ़ोगे तो look for the most interesting example जो आप use कर सकते हो ऐसे में. लिख पहले लो, because when you're writing essay you will not be able to recall that immediately. तो उसे एडवांस में आप लोग लिख लो. ओके ओके सो and now from here, okay, some more comments I'm getting up. So whatever other people, Abhijit and Aman, they are also saying something. So you can drop me a message on my phone number or on WhatsApp or on Gmail. Okay, you can drop me a message on WhatsApp and Gmail. Okay, I will continue with this session. See, these are now slightly. I will take a I will slightly take a break from our discussion so far. These have been the examples of current times. Okay, these are the examples of current times or what is taking place in the future. Okay, before I do that, one thing that I missed, one thing that I missed, and I really want to add up here. It's how could I miss that? It was on my mind. One very wonderful point is related to artificial intelligence. Every person is talking about AI and artificial intelligence. Now, see, obviously, we all know that we should be relying on we should be investing in AI. But whenever you have to talk about this thing, na, in essays, talk in this fashion, and this would look good. That we cannot change our history. Okay, we can't change history. So whatever has happened has happened. So what I mean to say here is India, it missed the industrial revolution. For many years, we have been uh, reading about this point that India missed the industrial revolution because of colonialism. Similarly, India missed the World War Sec and the the development in 19th century in 20th century because of non-alignment movement and other things, because it did not associate itself to any military blocks. It did not get aid from America. It missed those things. It went late in going for liberalization, the way Eastern economies and tiger economies like Singapore and those countries did, or China did. We had been cribbing about that for a long time. Now we cannot go back and change the fact that India missed industrial revolution. But today it is up to us. whether or not we miss the next revolution which is there for us. Will we miss the next revolution, the next revolution, the next economic revolution, the next revolution, and that is the revolution in AI? If we miss this revolution, we don't have anyone else to blame. We cannot go and blame our colonial history. We cannot blame socialism and the confusion of mixed economy that existed 40 years ago. We cannot blame anyone. It is entirely up to us whether or not we invest in artificial intelligence, whether or not we upskill our people, whether we become the leaders in it, the innovative leaders in it, or whether we just become cheerleaders in it. It is up to us. So this point I think is a very wonderful point which you all can use and use that and write that in this structured way. When you talk about that, when you say that we missed industrial revolution because of colonialism and we can't change that, we don't have access to time machine. But yes, what is happening today? It is up to us. Okay. Anyone else has to add any point here? Okay. But here I will take a slight break. So far, I have been talking about current times, okay? But we may have to talk about past also. And remember this thing, we may have to talk about past also to illustrate this point that how when we did not yield to the difficult circumstances, when we did not surrender to them, and when we fought back, when we swung into action at the appropriate time, then we were able to change the history, when we were able to change our history in the positive direction. So some of those turning points of our history where we really did well in the last 40, 50 years, I want you to take a note of those points. Some of my favorite points in this segment, when when India it India did its best, was the period from 1960s. I repeat this quite often in my essays. The period in 1960s was an extremely difficult situation, a moment of crisis in our country when we were facing wars. We faced almost 3 wars in 10 years. We were facing drought. We were facing some sort of sanctions from US also. This was a moment of crisis for our country. Our country was slipping into negative GDP, negative growth also. Drought was there, famine was there, people were dying of hunger, wars were imposed upon us. In that situation, we could not change our history, we could not change our neighbors, but what we could do is we could invest on our military programs. We upgraded our hardwares, okay, and then we invested or we went for green revolution. You know about green revolutions, you can write this in a little detail that how we went for high yielding variety of seeds and all those things that were required for it. And as a result of that, what happens today is that today we are one of the militaries in the world, which is ranked in top fives or top three in the world. And it is up to us that our East Asian neighbors are looking up to us that this is a country which can put a check to the advancement of China. And when China threatens us in Galwan Valley or on our borders, we don't get terrified by it. We don't buckle up because once upon a time we had invested on our military programs. After 1962 war, where we fought that war, we lost it. We can't change that history, but yes, after that we reshaped our military doctrines. We reshaped how we look at army, and today we are one of those countries which is really robust and which can look into the eyes of China without getting terrified. So this is one example. Other example that I quite often mention in my essays is related to 1990s financial crisis. Now, financial crisis was a time, again, see the contrast. So much we were near the verge of we were on the verge of bankruptcy. Our gold was held mortgaged in the banks of London. Had we not reshaped our economic programs, we went for complete overhaul. We left the inertia, and the change was such impactful that within 15 years we were we became the fastest, or one of the fastest, or rather second fastest, that is one of the fastest economy in the world, major economy in the world. Today we are one of the biggest economies in the world, third or fourth on PPP model. And all this happens because just a few decades ago, we were threatened by financial crisis. So these are some movements in our history where we were surrounded by difficult circumstances, but we fought back. We looked inwards, we looked what best we could do. Okay, some more examples of history. If you want to add from yourself, you can add in this segment and be prepared for an essay like that. Likewise, you can also talk about COVID or some other situation or epidemic. Now, COVID is both an example of present as well as a futuristic example. If tomorrow an epidemic like COVID breaks out again, then is our healthcare ready to absorb the risk of those epidemics? How would we address that? Okay, so that is also a point that you can take. But these are some of the positive points that you can mention. One more positive point that I find very interesting is that of Israel. Now, Israel is a country which is surrounded by enemies from all sides. It is a country which is surrounded by enemies from all sides. It's a tiny country. It's a very minuscule country of a negligible territory and population as compared to its adversaries. But still, look how it has tried to control what it can. It cannot change its neighbors, but still it has survived primarily because of its determination. So Israel's example can also be given both in terms of a country which has thrived in a military fashion, and also not just military, not just geopolitics, but also agriculture. They have turned up desert area into fertile area by various innovative methods of irrigation, the kind of drip irrigation and other innovative methodologies which they have adopted in agriculture is something that we can take lessons to. And if we take a contrast, what we are doing, we are a country that has sufficient rainfall. At least we are not a dry country like Israel, but still our own states in Haryana and Punjab, they are what is happening to their land. Water levels in the ground are falling down, and the soil is becoming more saline on the surface because of excessive irrigation and excessive use of pesticides and basically bad agricultural habits. So there you can put up a contrast. Okay. One more successful example that I'm reminded of with respect to India is with respect to its disaster management. Disaster management. Now, disaster management is another areas where we cannot change our external areas. Can we change the cyclones that occur to us? See, and remember, my friends, again, your attention towards presentation style. When I say, when I talk about disaster management, see this, notice this thing. This is called rhetorics. When we ask questions, you can do this. You can do this in your essays also. When I ask this thing, can we change change the course of a cyclone? Can we change the path of a cyclone? We cannot. No amount of our efforts would bring any relief or any change in the fact that cyclones are emerging in the oceans and seas. We cannot change oceans and seas. We cannot change oceans and seas. We cannot change any of these things. What we can change is how we react to them, how much we are prepared for them, how our response mechanism is for their, how swift our governance is in handling these crises. And one thing that we notice here is earlier cyclones, they used to be extremely devastative in Orissa and the eastern coast of our country. But within a decade or so, in the first half of the 20 in the first decade of 20th century, we saw a significant improvement in our governance, and cyclones then they stopped causing the similar level of devastation in our eastern coast. Not that the cyclones stopped emerging, but our response and our preparedness towards them changed. So this is also an example of that philosophy where we should where we should not be cribbing about the external environment, but we should rather look at what we can do, and disasters and these examples are very good example to demonstrate it. But yes, one place where we are still been failing to control the environment is floods. Now floods have been taking place a lot of times in our environment, and still we have not been able to do anything with respect to them. I mean, we are still not been able to control them in a satisfactory fashion. We're still to improve them. I've given you a lot of points here. Okay, so with these you can generate your some examples where you can address essays like these, where the focus is how to show that we need to react in a positive way even to the difficult circumstances. Okay, तो ये चीज आपको देखना है. I may give you one or two more essays if needed. Saurabh, can you put yourself on mic if you're not speaking something, or I will mute you.
Oh,
If you have something to say, then you can definitely say that, or else you can put yourself on mic mute.
I might
Okay.
have forgotten.
Hmm.
I might have forgotten to mute it.
Okay, it's okay. ठीक है. बाकी अब आप लोगों को कुछ बोलना है यहाँ पे? Anything what you want to say?
Sir, in the beginning of the session, you said that while presenting thoughts which have been derived from certain philosophy, we should present them as our own. What is the rationale behind that?
The rationale behind them is one is my own experience of things. See, what I had been writing these kind of philosophical ideas that we should not be bothered about the environment outside, but be looking inwards. What best we can do. It's later on when we realized, okay, the similar ideas were also mooted by some Stoic philosopher who was born in third century BC. Some Marcus Aurelius might have said that, some Seneca might have said that. So why should we give credit to of these things to someone else? Now, why I say this thing is, it's not that we shouldn't give credit. We should. At some places, we should. Definitely, at some places, this is what I would say. You should drop names of some philosophers or some school of thoughts to give an impression that you are well educated or you are well read. But what happens is give, when we hold some philosopher responsible for the content that we are writing, is that then in that situation, suppose when you say that according to so and so school of thought, this and this uh, views or philosophy of life or holds true. Now, when you're writing this thing, what happens to an examiner, I think, he evaluates you on the basis of how accurate you are. So rather than you being judged on the beauty of the thoughts that you are holding up, or the beauty of or the positivity of ideas that you are holding up, rather than you being judged and awarded for them, the the emphasis it gets shifted towards how accurate you are in the portrayal of the philosophy of that particular scholar or person or school of thought. Secondly, it does not look quite. I think also in that situation, the essayist ceases to look personal. This is a very good question that you asked, and what I want to say here is this point that it ceases to look personal. Suppose someone randomly walks up to you and says that, "What is your view of life, or what is your philosophy of love?" And you say that I believe love is all about taking care of one another, being respectful towards one another. Okay, this is a wonderful thing that you have said. Now, obvious, this is quite possible that the same idea may have been said by some scholar, some writer, some poet, and so on. And when you start this thing, when you say, okay, this XYZ person in the XYZ movie, it is being said that love is all about caring, then the listener would might automatically ask, okay, ये तो ठीक है, आप क्या सोचते हो, but ये तो वो मूवी में दिखाया है. This is what the scholar is saying, but what is your view on that? So the way out towards is you say, okay, this is what I think about the world. Obviously, in essays, you will not be using the word I. Okay, indirectly, you will be saying that these are your views, and then supplement them somewhere later. Okay, similar thoughts are also being reverberated in the words of so and so XYZ person. And again, it is not that I am stopping you or discouraging you from beginning your essay or starting your essay with some quotation of some scholar or school of thought. I'm not discouraging from you that either. Obviously, if you remember some quotation which is very relevant to the essay of a famous person, you can definitely use that. In fact, you should be using that. But what I want to tell you here is that your essay should not look like as if it's a compilation of different philosophies which you are comparing, which you have put up for a comparison and contrast. That you are trying to show, okay, this school of thought says so, this school of thought says so, this school of thought says so, and I have put up an analysis and a comparison between these things. The examiner may you will lose that opportunity to impress the examiner uh, by showcasing some of these positive sentiments as belonging to your own self. This is what I wanted to say. Ashish, have I made myself clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So,
It's not
like
that.
the
Hmm?
model essay which you gave on that topic of sensuality, you have mentioned a thing of beauty is a joy forever. You have quoted John Keats there, and there you have clearly mentioned who you are quoting there. So I think that contrast you are trying to create, that when you're trying to present any basic idea, instead of attributing that to a particular philosopher, you try to create a personal touch in that essay by saying that I have thought about this, rather than explicitly quoting that philosopher. But if we are quoting anything specific, like a poem or any particular branch of philosophy, then it would make sense to quote that philosopher. Have I
Mhm.
understood correctly?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So there has to be an appropriate balance, and rather than completely holding up some person responsible for your entire stream of reasons, give him a reference and a presence in one or two paragraphs or one or two places. But entire block of your ideas should not be flowing out of the mouth of some other person. They should look as if it is you who think like that. It is you who have generated those sentiments. And the ideas of some Marcus Aurelius or Seneca or Keats or Yeats or any other philosopher poet, there is just a coincidence that there seems to be an overlap between them. Okay, so yes, you have understood that well. And from here, where else we can go? See, one more thing that I want to say here. Uh, I've talked about, uh, I've talked about so far this stoicism. Okay. Mm, is it all clear? Whatever I've said so far. Okay. Yeah. One more thing. You cannot when we are looking into the same essay. In the same essay, you cannot escape the responsibility of tomorrow by evading it today. I'd given you these hints. Okay. Need to address the harsh realities and challenges around us. You can borrow some words or at least keep a good stock of words with yourself, some vocabulary which can be readily used. These examples we have already covered. Most of these examples I think we have covered. And this quotation has been said by Abraham Lincoln. Try to remember them. At least the essay quote topics that I'm asking you all, try to remember them. You will remember them if you put a slight effort and revise them. These can be used in different places. Some exception to this also I had mentioned over here, I think. Yeah, this is the point that I want to say. Additional or some exception. That is future versus present. The present cannot be sacrificed if we stay obsessed about future. So some sort of our attention also needs to be driven to what is taking place today. Importance of living in the moment. And also, it is not good to be impulsive. Obviously, we should be future oriented, but we should not become reckless and impulsive when we are thinking about them. So, some of these minor additions were there. But now I want you to ask this thing. I want to come to this idea. This sort of stoic rationality, which suggests listen to my statement, this sort of stoic rationality which suggests that your curb your desires or curb your pain. Okay, ignore or accept the external environment. This kind of stoic rationality, is it a good thing, or can you draw some fault lines in it? This is where I want you to draw your attention. And when I say curb your emotions also, this is also part of it. This focus on reason and rationality, is it a cardinal principle of life? A lot of people say, for example, don't be driven by desires, don't be driven by emotions, don't be emotional, don't be sentimental, don't, whatever has happened, just move on. Okay, move on, just move on. ये रोना धोना क्यों कर रखा है? Just move on. Focus on rationality and reason. ठीक है, तो ये जो वर्च्यूज हैं, आर दे ओके, या कहीं आपको लगता है कि इनमें कुछ एक एक वीकनेस है या कि इनका कुछ क्रिटिसिज्म हो सकता है?
So these thoughts may have a dehumanizing effect.
Yes, these thoughts may have a dehumanizing effect. These may have a dehumanizing effect because for a human being, desires and his reaction to pain, okay, his reaction to his tears, his pain, his cries, his yelling, aren't they natural thing? Our emotions, they are natural aspect of our personality. It's not so easy to move on all the time. So they may have a dehumanizing effect. And what many people, uh, you can you suggest like which is that particular philosophy which may slightly be critical of this stoic rationality? And it's a
Sir,
very, hmm?
sir, these curb your desires school of thought has an assumption that desires leads to suffering.
Hmm, hmm, hmm,
So that's why they say to curb your desires. And usually emotional driven actions
hmm,
caused harm and destruction. So
hmm, hmm,
that's why they focus on rationality and reason. We
hmm,
should not be jumping from one extreme to the another. Instead, we should strive for a balance in
hmm, hmm.
both of them.
Right, right. तो ये तो आपने उसको सपोर्ट कर दिया. This is Rahul, you have sort of supported or emphasized this idea of stoic rationality. But is it okay?
So
Okay,
can we link it to existentialism?
okay. Saurabh says it is Epicureanism and Charvak. Yes, Charvak's idea and yes, somewhat maybe yes. What you're saying? Yes, who said so? Existentialism?
Sami, Ashish.
Existentialism. Yes, existentialism, and they would come slightly in criticism of it. How? Because this stoic rationality, while it asks you to curb your desires and curb your pain, we saw at the top there was one word that it said focus on rationality and reason, and also it wanted us to focus on duty and morality. So whenever stoic rationality wants us to focus on morality, the school of thought which belongs to existentialism, they will question it because they will say that there is no sense of morality and duties. There's nothing like that. We are human beings and we exist here before any sense of morality or any sense of duties have been imposed on us. So these kind of things like morality and ethics, they are just there to bind us. They are there to confine us, and we exist prior to them. They have came later. So we as human beings exist prior to them, and we should be left free to pursue what we want. So this sort of existential school would be critical of it, and likewise, Charvaka also, would n- who would be slightly critical of any sort of divine interpretation of these duties and ethics. He could also be seen little critical of it. Okay, so yes, these people are critical of it. You're getting it right to a great extent, but one more important school of thought, which is very critical of it, and it may be a little controversial, but it is feminism. A lot of women writers, a lot of women writers, they have been very critical of this sort of stoic rationality. They've been very critical of stoic rationality. And see, now you will see the beautiful part of it. Stoic rationality suggests that be driven by rationality, be driven by emotion, be driven by rationality and reasons. Look more about morality, look more about virtues, duty, curb your pain. अपने दर्द के बारे में ज्यादा बात मत करो. हाथ कट गया तो कट गया. आगे काम करो. कोई मर गया तो मर गया. अब आगे काम करो. ठीक है. तो ये चीजें फेमिनिस्ट्स को उतना पसंद नहीं आती बिकॉज दे से दैट दिस सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टोइक रैशनैलिटी इज मोर ऑफ a masculine interpretation of the world. It's more of a masculine interpretation of the world. Now, I want to take, मैं आपको कहानी सुनाना चाहता हूँ. Are you ready for it? I want to tell you a story. See, in 20th century, around 1920s, around 1920s and 30s, a school of thought emerged in literature. And these people, they said that what is the idea of a good poem or a good novel? A good poem is a poem in which the poet does not talk about his or her own pain, but rather pain of someone else or about the issues of life which concern to the entire humanity. So talk about entire humanity. Don't talk about your own self. Don't make it personal. So what these school of people, and they were led by this person called T.S. Eliot, whose poem Wasteland I have quite often referred to you all. These group of people, they promoted or they came up a new school of thought in literature, and this was called neo-criticism. Let's see, neo-criticism. What they said that poetry is is not an outpour of emotions. हमेशा अधिकतर लोग क्या कहते हैं पोइट्री के बारे में, पोइट्री दिल की बातें कहने का वक्त है. नो, इट्स नॉट एन आउटपोर ऑफ इमोशंस. इट इज नॉट अ प्लेस वेयर यू एक्सप्रेस योर पर्सनैलिटी. मोस्ट ऑफ अस बिलीव सो. ठीक है, हम लोगों को क्या लगता है व्हेन यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट पोइट्री, वी आर आउटपोरिंग आवर इमोशंस. दे सेड नो. Express your personality, no. But what you should rather do in poetry, talk about universal universal things. मैंने आपको ऐसे की क्लास 1 में आपको बताया था कि कल्चर का जब मैंने एक वर्ड यूज किया था वहां पे, व्हाट इज कल्चर? समथिंग विच इज बीन द बेस्ट दैट हैज एवर बीन सेड, विच इज टाइमलेस. सो टॉक अबाउट यूनिवर्सल थिंग्स. ओके, तो राइट दिस लिटरेचर विच इज टाइमलेस, जो सबके लिए सेम हो, यूनिवर्सल हो. अमेरिका में बैठ के एक आदमी लिख रहा है ऐसी पोइट्री जो पूरी दुनिया के दर्द को बयान कर रही है, नॉट हिज ओन पेन, नॉट हिज ओन सेल्फ. सो people should not be writing about their own pain. Now, this kind of literature this kind of school of thought became very popular. And then feminist writers, they became quite critical of it. These feminist writers, they became quite critical of it, and they said that this sort of stoic rationality that you are expecting in literature and art, it is typically masculine behavior, because women, they go through a lot of emotions in their life. Why shouldn't they be talking about personal emotions and personal outburst of emotions? They go through things. So when stoic rationalists like T.S. Eliot, they want us to write poetry about grief of others, and don't let poetry be a vehicle to transmit our own experience of life, then feminist poets would criticize it, and they would say that there are issues in a woman's life which she wants to talk about, like childbirth, which is a beautiful experience of life, or it could be rape or violence, a very horrific moment. So very beautiful moment, a very horrific moment. Why can't she talk about these things in her poetry? When you are expecting someone to curb their emotions, not allow that person to talk about the grief, suppress it, curb it, move on, then you are basically stripping women or taking away from women the one thing that they love the most is to talk about their grief, to express their grief. And it is quite popular when a quite popular thought that women express themselves, they love expressing themselves. They love articulating their emotions. They're very expressive when it comes to emotions. But men, they are sort of more in control when they are expressing their emotions. So stoic rationality is something which favors male. It it favors the masculine perception of the world. It does not brings into the fore. It does not bring into the front the women's or the female view of the world. So stoic rationality is something which would be critical of, which would be criticized by feminist writers. Got it? Another idea, another. I'm taking a little bit more time today, but this is very important. And remember this example and this example would be very important whenever you have to write an essay which is related on the topic of rationality and reason. No one will tell you this thing unless he or she belongs to the field of literature. Okay, people from science, maths background, they possibly would miss this idea, this kind of projection. There is a novel by a writer called Anita Desai, and she had written a novel called Cry the Peacock. If you all have a little bit of time today or tomorrow, you can try to read the summary of this novel. In the novel Cry the Peacock, there is a woman and her name is Maya. There is an there is his um husband whose name is Gautam. And these kind of novels are very popular in English literature. They are very popular in feminist literatures also. And what happens in this novel is Maya is very emotional and Gautam is very stoic. He is very rational. He's driven by, and as you know, Gautam itself is an allusion to the rishi or that person in Indian mythology who was very much in control of his emotions. So Gautam Buddha, who controlled his urges and desires. So Gautam here refers to that person. Maya refers to desires, love, sensuality, and those kind of things. So the woman is very emotional, the husband is very stoic, and Maya, she is driven. She had heard this prophecy somewhere that one of them will die within 4 years of marriage. One of them will die. And this prophecy, ये जो भविष्यवाणी है, this is something which drives her mad. But what drives her mad is also the stoic rationality of her husband. And there is a very beautiful example with the help of which you would be able to understand. One day, the novel begins with this reference. You can mention it somewhere if you want. Maya is sitting with her dog, okay, and the dog name is Toto. Maya loves that dog, and that dog has died. The dog Toto has died, and when Toto is died, Maya Maya is struck with pain. She wants to cry, but she is not able to cry. And when she's so sad that evening because her dog had died and the dog was there on the ground, then Gautam arrives. And when Gautam looks at Toto and the dead dog and Maya, then he says immediately, uh, Maya says to him that the dog has died, and Gautam says, okay, the dog has died, we will let him be buried, we will buy you a new dog. See what the response of Gautam was. Gautam's response that let's buy a new dog was very rational. He came up a with a very rational reaction. He did not cry. Had he that day, that evening, had he cried with Maya a little bit, then this these tears would would help Maya to get rid of her own grief. But it never occurred because Gautam was stoic and he just ignored the pain. He said कि move on, कुत्ता मर गया तो मर गया, एक और कुत्ता ले आएंगे. This was her reaction. Maya कहती है नहीं नहीं, Toto, she loved Toto. Toto was world for her. And when her husband he rejected, then it happened so. Also, there are many instances where you will see, for example, there are instances, suppose there is a, between a husband and wife, there is an example of failed pregnancy, or there is a death of a newborn baby. Now, this is not an example of the novel. Remember this. This is another example that I'm telling you. In this example, when there is a failed pregnancy, the wife, she wants to cry, she wants to shed her tears, she wants to feel the pain, but husband has never been a partner in that pain. Husband has a stoic rationality, always in complete control of his emotions. Mathematical, reasonable, scientific. बच्चा है ना, मर गया तो मर गया, प्रेगनेंसी है दोबारा हो जाएगी. Look from a scientific viewpoint, look from a rational viewpoint. Why should you cry for a dead baby? You can make lots of babies. This is the view of a stoic husband. But the wife, she has never got uh, the shoulder on which she could cry, because the only person who comes closest to a wife in the process of a failed pregnancy is the husband. If the husband is driven by stoic behavior, then he would never be able to help his wife get over the pain which she is suffering. Now we can add more and more examples. We've given here failed pregnancy. It's not necessary that the woman only would be emotional. It could be a different situation also. What about a husband, for example? There may be an instances where a husband is emotional person. Suppose he loses a job. Suppose he loses a job. Suppose he's thrown out of a job, and if his wife does not help him address that pain, and this emotional man is holding up a lot of he's struck with a lot of emotions, and these emotions would cause a lot of distress to him. Mental issues would be there. And the wife is very stoic in her behavior, and she's saying that it's okay, so and so, if you it doesn't matter. Or suppose she's even more critical of the husband, and she is constantly being rational and putting up more pressure on the husband that why don't you upskill yourself, you should be upskilling yourself, you should be investing in your own education and so on. Why are you crying about a job that you lost? Why are you crying about a business that failed? Why are you crying about so and so thing? Just focus on what best you can do. And she is not saying that in an empathetic tone, but she is saying that in a critical tone, in a rational tone, in a stoic tone, that then let me know, then will this be a successful relationship? Even this relationship would be under tremendous stress. So the point that I want to tell you here is these stoicism, or this philosophy of being able to control your pain and grief and being rational, being just just focusing on what best you can do irrespective of the difficult circumstances around you, and running away from emotional expression, running away from sensuality, running away from all these things that make us soft and human, is not necessarily a virtue which should always be glamorized, or which should always be looked upon as the sole noble virtue in the world. There is other interpretation of life also, which is quite possible. And with this, I think I will end or move towards the closure. It now I want to talk about what makes us human. Is it rationality that makes us human, or is it emotions that make us human? What is a human? What makes us human? Is it the emotions that make us human, or is it the rationality that makes us human? Is it the courage that makes us human, or is it the weakness that makes us human? What is it the desire that makes us human, or is it the discipline that makes us human? What makes us human? हम इंसान हैं तो क्यों हैं? और इन्हीं सब चीज़ों को मैं डिस्कस करूंगा आप लोगों के साथ अगले ऐसे सेशन में. ह्यूमन एंड ह्यूमनिज्म के ऊपर we will have the next session. What is humanism? What is human? And with the help of this, you will be able to understand the foundation of this field of human knowledge, which we call as humanities. हम ह्यूमैनिटीज़ में मैथ्स की बात नहीं करते हैं, हम ह्यूमैनिटीज़ में साइंस की बात नहीं करते हैं, बिकॉज साइंस, मैथ्स, लॉ, ये सारी चीज़ें ठीक हैं, बहुत ज़रूरी हैं, दे आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, वाइटल फॉर existence of humans, but this is possibly not what makes us human. There is a view of view of life, or an discipline or a field of research where man should be put at the center stage. Okay, so what is that? We will be looking for in the next session. But as of now, tab tak ke liye, I'm throwing open this question to you all, that what makes us human? Is it the emotion? Is it a poet who makes पोएट जो दुख की बात करता है, अपने इमोशंस की बात करता है, वो आपको ह्यूमन बनाता है? या फिर सम रैशनल पर्सन, रेने डेस्कार्टिस, हु सेड दैट आई थिंक देयरफॉर आई एम ए मैन, उसका वो फेमस स्टेटमेंट, व्हाट इज मे व्हाट इज द रिजल्ट, व्हाट मेक्स यू ह्यूमन? इस पे सोचिएगा आप लोग, ठीक है? थिंक अबाउट दिस एंड वी विल टेक ऑन दिस डिस्कशन in the next class. Okay, anything so far? Any questions from your side?
No, sir.
Okay, so it's been late also. So quite late also. So with this, I would end it here. This discussion, I will end it here, and I will in last 1 minute, I will also summarize this, that where we started uh, on this importance of our approach towards life, where we should focus on what best we can do, irrespective of the difficult circumstances and situations that surround us. Difficult times would be there, they had been in the past, they are in the present, they will be there in the future. We cannot change the external world, but we should not get overwhelmed with the external world also. If something happens to us in our life course, to us, or to our community, or to our nation, or to this world, then it is no one else but we ourselves who should be held responsible for that. We should take up the ownership. We should be in control of emotions, desires, and passions, and be more driven by rationality, be more committed to ethics and duty, and look for what best we can do to fulfill our duty, to fulfill morality, to make this world a better place. The nature of sacrificing, the nature of entrepreneurship, and all these virtues we should imbibe, and on that all alone would depend what future holds for us. So with this, friends, I close this discussion. Thank you. Okay, friends. So आज के लिए फिर अभी इतना. Okay.